In Frankfurt am Main, Germany, Sarah was at the playground with her young son, Josh, when she heard the sound of a helicopter moving across the sky. Suddenly, she began to recall her time during a mission in Afghanistan. Just then, a guy who was arguing with his friends bumped into her. She punched him in the face and easily subdued him. She quickly realized what she had done as soon as she saw her son, so she apologized and let the guy go. A few years later, Sarah was taking her son to work with her when she received a notification on her phone. Upon hearing the notification, the sender introduced himself as an investigative journalist, and he was calling because he had new information related to what happened to her in Afghanistan. He had sent her a video as evidence. Sarah started watching the video but didn't understand anything. Suddenly, she looked around and realized her son was missing. She panicked, and thankfully Josh was just standing idly in a corner. She quickly went to him and told him to always stay with her because she didn't want to lose him. A few minutes later, they arrived at the U.S. consulate building. It turned out she had received a job at a security company in the U.S. and wanted to move to the country to start working, while also bringing Josh closer to his father's family. His father was an American who had died during a mission in Afghanistan. She hadn't fully recovered from that loss yet, but was still trying her best to cope. After filling out the paperwork and waiting for their flight, Josh kept playing, and Sarah had to take him to the children's room to play for a moment while she waited in the corridor for their flight number to be called. When the flight number was called, Sarah quickly ran back to pick up her son. But when she got to the playground, she didn't see Josh. She started looking around while calling his name, but still saw nothing. Now she started losing control and reported the incident to the security team, telling them her son might be in one of the offices. The security team did not have the authority to search the rooms, so she was taken to Eric, the head of regional security. He opened the offices for her to search for her son, but after checking several rooms, she still couldn't find him. She started crying and blaming herself for leaving Josh alone for those few minutes. Eric told her a story about his young daughter to help calm her down and promised that they would help find her son. Subsequently, the entire security team was dispatched to search for the child in every corner of the building, but found nothing. Sarah remembered seeing a man and a woman carrying a bag and thought they might be connected to her missing son. She pleaded with Eric to open the door behind him, but he refused, stating it was a high-security area. He escorted her to his office, where Eric reviewed her job resume, learned she was a veteran, and thanked her for her service to the country. Donovan, one of the security personnel, told Sarah that she was alone when she arrived at the building that morning. Donovan gave her the list of people who had arrived that day and only found her name. She didn't believe the list was accurate and pointed out that her son had been playing around the corridor and had even met people, including him, but he denied it. She argued that surveillance cameras might have captured something, but Donovan said he had checked and only she had entered the consulate building. Subsequently, she was forced to call the German police to report her missing child, and the police told her they had already heard about it. However, German police were not allowed to enter the consulate as it was considered a diplomatic building, and Germans had no jurisdiction to enter. For now, she had to leave the building, and they would find a way to resolve everything. Sarah refused and pointed out that once she left, she wouldn't be allowed back in and wouldn't be able to find her son. Seeing that there was no way to progress the conversation, Sarah ended the call and tried to fight her way out of the office only to be tackled to the ground by Eric. She was forced to wait for the German police to remove her from the consulate. Sarah stayed with Donovan, but suddenly he received a call and rushed off to handle it. Seizing the opportunity, Sarah picked the lock and opened the door to escape. To avoid being caught by building security, she climbed out of a window and tried to jump to the other side, but unfortunately fell to the ground. Breaking through a ventilation door, she entered the building through a corridor and broke into a guest room. There, she found Irina, a Russian woman being held as a political refugee. Seeing that Sarah could actually move around the building without being caught, Irina offered to help her in exchange for assistance in escaping the building. News of Sarah wandering through the building caught the attention of Consul General Deborah. After reviewing her file, Deborah wanted to arrest her immediately, but Eric argued that it was unnecessary. He stated that arresting Sarah would significantly damage Deborah's reputation. Eric asserted that he would handle the matter himself. Sarah deduced that the only way to get someone out of the building was through a warehouse within the building, and her only suspects were the two mysterious people carrying a bag from earlier. She tried to subdue a guard and take his key card so they could move around the building easily. They managed to enter an isolated room, and Sarah noticed one of the storage units had a symbol similar to the one on the bag she saw the people involved in the earlier exchange carrying. She broke the lock, and upon opening the bag, she found some kind of flour and deduced that they were merely smugglers. The duo returned to the guest room with a bag. Sarah thought that perhaps her son Josh had seen something during the exchange. That's why they took him to silence him. The two were arguing intensely when a knock on the door interrupted them. Irina went to check, and two Russian assassins burst through the door to attack her. Fortunately, Sarah was just nearby, so she began fighting one of them. Unfortunately, she was punched in the face and briefly relapsed. She quickly got back up, and with her close-quarters combat skills, she was able to take down the first assailant. Irina managed to improvise a flamethrower, incinerating the other assailant, allowing Sarah to finish off the remaining one. While trying to follow Irina, Sarah was cornered by Donovan and injected with a sedative, causing her to pass out. When she woke up, Sarah found herself tied to a bed. She immediately began explaining everything to Deborah, including her encounter with Irina. Deborah replied that she was concerned for her and mentioned that Sarah's mother had called earlier to report that Sarah suffered from a medical condition that caused her to have delusions. Deborah stated that Sarah's claims of her son being missing and the encounter with Irina had never happened. Sarah didn't believe this and requested at least the surveillance footage to prove that what Deborah said was true. Eric showed her the camera footage, which showed her walking alone around the building and hitting a security guard. Deborah suggested that perhaps she was just imagining things and said that the German police would arrive tomorrow morning and everything would be resolved. When she woke up for the second time, Irina was posing as a staff member and trying to free her. Sarah was now doubting her senses, asking if Irina was real. To prove she was real, Irina told her about her past. They used to be the wealthiest family in Belarus. Her father was a notorious criminal involved in money laundering and a government official. When he switched sides, this terrified his former group, and they eventually killed him. If Irina hadn't made it to the U.S. Embassy in Minsk with the CIA's help, she would have been killed too. The USB drive she had hidden contained all the evidence, and Russian operatives wanted it back. That's what kept her stuck there for months. Recently, Donovan came to ask Irina about her passport, which was when she knew something was wrong. Sarah still didn't believe Irina was real after the evidence on the camera footage. So, Irina had to try to injure herself to prove she was real. Sarah stopped her, and they left the room through the window to avoid detection by surveillance cameras. They moved through the crowd, and no one paid them any mind until they realized they were in a conference room. Irina sent a post to the consulate via their internet connection, hoping whoever owned the duffel bag would come and retrieve it. Soon after, they received a notification from Zoomer asking them to meet. Both parties agreed to meet in the cafeteria, as it was the least expected location. Upon meeting the owner of the flower, he promised that after receiving the package, he would take her to her son. At that moment, Sarah noticed something strange in the man's demeanor, so she concluded that he was lying and didn't know where her son was. So, Sarah asked him for help finding her son, since he had high security access as an IT staff member of the consulate. Sarah needed a floor plan of the premises and a key card that would grant her access to the building if he wanted his bag back. He told Sarah to meet him in the men's restroom in 20 minutes. Just then, Sarah spotted Eric with his daughter on the other side of the cafeteria. But he was soon distracted because the surveillance room lost camera feed. Eric quickly left without realizing he had left his daughter's walkie-talkie there. In the men's restroom, the IT guy told Sarah that he could deploy malware into the server. Thus, they had an hour to do whatever they wanted before the cameras came back online. He gave Sarah the floor plan and the key card in exchange for the bag. Sarah punched him unconscious to make it look like she had purposefully attacked him. Since Donovan was the person they thought could find Josh, the duo went to his office and began checking the computer. They were shocked to find a series of files containing all the details of Sarah's arrival at the consulate building. It turned out everything had been planned from the beginning. They decided to check the backgrounds of the consulate's heads, where they learned that Eric was also a military officer who had fought in Afghanistan and a regional expert in Islamabad, Pakistan. This meant that the video Sarah had on her phone from the beginning was trying to tell her something. Sarah decided to call the journalist who had sent her the footage for further clarification. The journalist told her that Eric was a corrupt operative, and every time they tried to charge him for his crimes, he was acquitted. Now his news source claimed that Eric was responsible for the attack in Afghanistan that claimed the lives of 8 soldiers, including her husband. While they were talking, Donovan approached the office, so they quickly downloaded a clearer screenshot of the moment Eric was with a terrorist. Sarah lunged to attack Donovan so they could escape the office. Donovan gave chase, but the two managed to escape through an opening that led to the consulate's roof. Irina clarified the image regarding the incident in Islamabad, and Sarah recalled seeing that man with Eric during the war in Afghanistan, but he was presumed dead. News of Sarah receiving the email reached Eric, and he went out to look for her. At the warehouse, Sarah told Irina that she could escape the consulate by hiding behind a truck while Sarah distracted the armed soldiers. Sarah ran towards a truck, creating an opportunity for Irina to climb onto it. Unfortunately, A volley of shots caused her to crash into the truck. After fighting off several security personnel, she tried to catch her breath, but Eric attacked her. He punched her multiple times before they fell into a pool. Eric tried to drown her, but Sarah escaped. She found the gun and pointed it at him, demanding to know her son's whereabouts. Eric confessed that he had her son and that the boy was currently fine. Then, Sarah asked why Eric had kidnapped her son and revealed that she knew about his conspiracy with a terrorist in Islamabad. Worried for her son, Sarah went to find him. She changed clothes to conceal herself, with only 4 minutes left before the servers came back online. She concocted an improvised explosive device and detonated it on one of the floors. This explosion reached Deborah. She ordered Eric to execute military protocol to send people to find Sarah and shoot her on sight. All civilians in the building were immediately evacuated, and Sarah found Eileen, Eric's daughter. She showed the girl the walkie-talkie, tricking her into believing her father had sent Sarah to pick her up. Sarah took Eileen to a safe room and called Eric to inform him of their location. Eric arrived on the other side of the safe room, where Sarah told him to hand over her son. She said the safe was steel reinforced, meaning it could only be opened from the inside, and detonating it would risk injuring his daughter. Drilling it wouldn't be an option because the safe would run out of oxygen before they finished drilling. If Eric wanted to see his daughter alive, he should show Sarah her son. Deborah tried to negotiate with Sarah to release the girl, but she refused. She told Deborah that Deborah had no idea what Eric was hiding from them. Unable to tolerate holding a young girl hostage, Sarah decided to release her on the condition that Eric join her in the safe room for a dialogue. After the exchange, Sarah pleaded with Eric that she didn't mind losing her life for his secrets. The only thing she wanted was for him to at least release her son and take him to her mother. Instead, Eric turned off the intercom system so that outsiders wouldn't hear them. He mentioned that it was they who had helped Sarah get the job working in the US so she could come to the consulate. Eric had to kidnap her son and erase footage from the cameras to make the incident seem like Sarah was delusional. Sarah deduced that he could easily kill her, as she was the sole witness to the incident in Afghanistan. Everything would have gone according to plan if Irina had been killed by the two assassins, and Eric would have blamed Sarah for Irina's death. But they underestimated Sarah, as she had sent the two assassins to their graves. Eric then shot her, while also shooting himself and handing Sarah the gun. He ran out of the safe room, screaming that Sarah had a gun. Losing too much blood, her life flashed before her eyes as she recalled the moment she was in Afghanistan with her husband. The mission went according to plan until they were ambushed, and everyone lost their lives that day except her. Back in reality, Sarah didn't give up and tried to reach the door before it was shot open. It turned out she had been recording her conversation with Eric the entire time and broadcast it through the intercom system where everyone could hear it. Upon hearing this, Donovan fled, while Eric was caught red-handed. A team was dispatched to rescue Josh, and Sarah was finally reunited with her son. Thank you for watching the entire movie. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more great movies.